That's
The dawn of a new age.
Oh my god.
Yo, what is up, everybody? It is Chase, and this is the New Age Comics Podcast. Welcome back. I hope you're doing well. I'm in a okay state at the moment. It's subpar at best, I guess. That's how I would describe it. My week was rough, is what I mean to say. But I hope your week has been doing great. And if you're new here, welcome. This is, like I was saying, New Age Comics. We're here to talk some comic books. I got a big ass stack of books right here. Oh man, so many books, so many fun books to talk this week. It was a humongous week. I got four, man. I don't even know if I want to rattle off all the comics that I got. We got a lot. I think it's like 15, 16. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But I hope you stick around for the 30th episode of the podcast. That's right. This is episode number 30. So golf claps all around. Yay, I've made it this far. I can't believe it. I kind of can't believe it, but I want to thank everybody who's been rocking with me this whole time. I think it may be impossible for anyone to have been following me since episode 1. Simply because my first episode is in like the deep, dark archives of SoundCloud. It's like the dark, cursed, hidden episodes of the New Age Comics Podcast. So don't go looking for those. But hey, we're here for Ep 30. So thank you guys for joining us. And there's some exciting things to plug, I guess, just getting out of here real quick before I hop right into the books. Like usual, I'm trying to keep the episodes short here. I made some progress last week, so hopefully we can keep that up this time around. Couple things. One, if you are interested in my WandaVision recap show, I did one with my roommate. It's on my channel, New Age Comics WanViz. You can look it up. Go check it out. We got all 9 episodes. We did 8 of the show because the first episode we just talked Ep 1 and 2. So go check that out if you haven't. Just a casual plug for that. And another casual plug, the ad campaign that I was running this last month for Sin Eater. I am no longer officially running ads, but I am tossing out one more free ad because this is awesome, guys. Apparently you all were amazing and helped the campaign get somewhere because they like crushed their goal, totally surpassed their goal. I think they were originally at like 6,500 and they're at like 15K right now. Oh my gosh. You know, I don't know how many of y'all went and pitched into the campaign or not, but if you did, I'm sincerely grateful because, hey, that was my first advertising experience. You know, that was my first sponsor, right? And so it looked good. It looked good to them, you know? So if you went out and committed to Sin Eater, I know there was some people on Twitter that did. I'm sincerely grateful because it looked good and, you know, I'm going to keep working with these guys. So that's awesome. I love you all. And I mean, that's really all else I have to talk about before we get into the books. Another anecdote is I'm out of bags and boards this week, or just like the past few weeks. So I have loose floppies just like all over my house. It's terrible. Well, you know, in fairness, I have 2 boards. I just don't have any bags. I don't know how I had these 2 boards. They're just lying around. Maybe I got lucky and got a 102 pack or something like that. So that's the state of things, the state of play right now. But I got a big stack of books. We're going to hop right into them now. All right, so first section I'm going to be delving into this week is the DC section. I have 4 books here, 4 exciting books that I can't wait to talk about. We're talking Superman, we're talking Joker, we're talking Batman, Urban Legends, and Rorschach. Yikes. Let's start with Superman. I was really hyped for this book. Oh gosh, comics are flying around. I was really hyped for this. This is Superman 29, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, drawn by Phil Hester, and colors by Hi-Fi. So as I just identified, this is the new writer takeover for Superman. Brian Michael Bendis was writing Superman for the last 28 issues, pretty much. Since 2018, around that time. And so now PKJ, as I shall continue to refer to him, is taking over the mythos. And I'm really excited for that. You know, the Bendis run was controversial in quality. I quite liked it. It was my first Superman run. Sue me. But popping into this book, this is a very different tone. It feels very different from Bendis. And it's seeming like it's going to be emphasizing, just based off this first issue, it looks like there's going to be a lot of emphasis on a like passing of the torch, if you know what I mean. The torch passer, obviously, being Clark Kent, and then it seems like the torch bearer is going to be John Kent, because this book is sort of like a duo team-up book where John and Clark are just fighting a bunch of aliens. It's a really fun book. Phil Hester's art is a ton of fun. This is my first Phil Hester book, and you know what? I think it might be my first PKJ book as well, other than, I guess, the Superman Worlds of War in Future State, which was okay. But I think this is definitely, I mean, this isn't even speculation. This is the beginning of Clark's nerf. Easily the beginning of it. I covered this when I was doing the news segment yonder ago, that we were going to see Clark get nerfed a little bit. And this is definitely the beginning of it. Clark gets like scratched or something it's like a Pokemon game. He gets scratched by like a alien, and then the aliens are communicating, and I think they say that, oh, he's weaker, or his energy readings are they're weak or something. So this is the beginning of that, and that's going to be interesting. We will see where that goes. I could use a little bit of Clark nerfing, especially for all the Superman dislikers out there that want to state that as the reason they dislike Superman. But more in this book. The narration is great. PKJ's writing is superb, I have to say. I think the story left a little bit more to be desired. It was kind of just fighting and the narration. I don't know, just a little, I could have used a little more, I could have used a little more story, but I guess that's sort of a reaction coming out of Bendis. You know what I mean? Bendis told stories so layered. There was so much going on, especially with like personal relations, and this book didn't have a lot of that. So we will see how this differs from the Bendis run for sure. And there was a bit of back matter here in this book. It was like a Tales of Metropolis or something. I think it was written by Sean Lewis. And, it was okay. It was kind of random. It may tie into the PKJ run at some point. It was like with this dude named Bibbo. And Jimmy Olsen was involved, and this like ghost person that turns into ice. It was random. It was really random, but it may tie in later. We shall see. For the next book, I'm going to talk the Joker issue #1 that just dropped, written by Tinian, drawn by Guillaume March, and colors by Prianto here. This is super anticipated. I think everyone was like, holy shit, a Joker book? You don't really see many villains get their own ongoing series. That was the thing too. This wasn't some kind of mini or two-parter or something that was just going to be a throwaway story. Like, it's an ongoing series, also written by the current writer of Batman. So that's very significant. And I thought this was really dope. For some obvious story reasons. The issue actually followed Gordon more than it did Joker. But it is very much about the Joker. I love the like elevator pitch plot hook here. It's essentially that James Gordon is approached and offered a huge lump sum of money, a ton of money, basically to go whack the Joker. And obviously Gordon, I guess he's retired now. This is opening up some interesting questions about where Future State is picking up, which actually I'm going to pivot to that really quick. I had the same concern with the Superman book. Where are we at in relation to where we were at pre-Future State versus now? Because there are some things that do not make sense. And maybe I'm wrong. I do not remember if Gordon... Oh, wait. Okay, Gordon was no longer the commissioner back during pre-Future State, because you guys remember that whole oh god, what was it called? The Batman vs Superman, the Secret Six shit, right? So yes, he was no longer commissioner, and it was Bullock. That was the thing. This is just like my train of thought catching up here. But I mean, he's no longer commissioner in this book, and that was just kind of weird to see at first. You know what I mean? But as for the Superman book, just a quick little aside about it. John Kent is back from the, what is it called? The League of the Superheroes. And so I was like, okay, is that like Dunzo? Or see, I wasn't reading it, so it's neither here nor there. But all that stuff was so Bendisified. Now it's not. I don't know what the hell's going on. It seems like we're looking at kind of like a fresh start, maybe just sort of like a soft, squeaky reboot. Okay, but more into Joker. I loved the art here. Gulliam March's art is super horrific. It felt like another ripple of the Immortal Hulk effect, which I'm going to be coining that term. You guys better give me my roses. In like 20 years, when we're talking about the history of comics, you better give me credit for referencing the Immortal Hulk effect, which was Immortal Hulk changing the game and introducing so much love for horror books into the game. But I don't know, some of y'all will probably say that I'm capping and that there is some sort of secret horror, underground sort of stuff that was going on that I don't even know about. But regardless, I really liked this idea for Gordon. I think he obviously has every reason to whack the Joker, and James Tynion was nailing on all of those moments. Obviously, Killing Joke was one. Black Mirror is another, or just the general, I think it's The Batman Who Laughs as well, which, right, it features the death of his son, James Gordon Jr. So I love this story for James Gordon, Mr. Gordon. It's so cool. And I would love if this was sort of like a Gordon Joker book. You know, what's wrong with that? And lastly, another thing we get to see in this Joker part is more details into this A-Day thing that they kept referencing. Apparently something that was in the Infinite Frontier book that I talked about last week. It was just like an explosion of Joker gas at the Arkham Asylum or whatever. Apparently this is going to be significant throughout Infinite Frontier. I keep having it written down as IF in my notes, so I keep messing up when I get to that point. But I think this is going to be significant for some reason. You know, obviously the Joker being a significant figure. But then there's also a punchline mini in the back here. It was okay. It was a little confusing. It was pretty short, I will say. So I want to see where the trial goes, and I'm liking what they're doing with punchline kind of being embraced as like a victim in all of this. Very cool. Moving into the next book, Batman Urban Legends issue number 1. This is a fatty book. So I'm not going to read the creative team, but I will list it off just quickly as we jaunt through the book. So 4 stories in here. It seems like DC wants to do like a more connected Gotham verse now, right? They're bringing Nightwing back into Gotham. They're introducing this book that looks like it's going to be just like a Gotham Adventures type book, right? Just a bunch of miscellaneous fun stuff going on in Gotham. I think that's cool. I like that idea for a book. I'm a little skeptical. This is an $8 book, and it's like, damn, I don't want to be picking up $8 books just left and right. And I think this is an ongoing series. It's going to be going for a while. We shall see. But as for the stories in here, there's a lot of really good ones. Like content-wise, this is a great book. I'll just go right through them. The first one is, I was really anticipating. This was a Chip Zdarsky Batman and Red Hood book titled Cheer. And this is going to be apparently a 6-parter, so we'll be seeing this across the next 6 Urban Legends issues. I thought this was really good. This was a super great story. It was pretty much your classic, like, new drug in town, right? Like, where's it coming from? I gotta hunt it down, and that's... How many Batman stories has that been? It's been a few, but I like the way Zdarsky is tackling it. He's looking into the fucked up relationship between Jason and Bruce. It's very interesting, and it looks like it's going to be the kind of flagship banger of this Urban Legends series. I am really into it. The next little mini here was only a 1-parter, and it was the Harley Quinn Poison Ivy New Roots. This was by Stephanie Phillips. And I thought this was a cute story. I think, just since it's a 1-parter, that's really all it had to do. It was short and sweet. Harley's just kind of, it seems like she's getting over Poison Ivy or something, which made me wonder, like, is Poison Ivy dead at the moment? I'm not sure. Could this be like a death metal connection? I'm pretty sure she was like involved, right, in like one of the in one of the death metal tie-ins or something. So is Poison Ivy dead? Did they just like break up? Not sure. It was a cute story nonetheless. Next story was The Outsiders little mini here called The Caretaker by Brandon Thomas. I thought this Outsiders was really dope. Really, really dope. It was a pretty short story, but it had just tons of action. The whole thing was just like one action sequence. In typical comic fashion, the Outsiders kind of just seem to have gotten themselves into some shit which is always fun. I feel like I've been sleeping on The Outsiders, man. Like I wasn't picking up their like ongoing series that was coming out a little bit ago, just because the whole, like there's a dozen Batman books on the shelf. You can't get them all. And I really feel like I should have been getting into it because, damn, like Brandon Thomas has been killing all of the Outsider stuff I've been sort of forced to pick up via Future State and now via this book. I need to catch up. Just another long list of comics. Another thing to add to the list. But moving on to the last book, the Grifters book at the end here, The Long Con, written by Matthew Rosenberg. I thought this was totally amazing. I do not know shit about Grifter, but I love Grifter. It has taken nothing for me to gain a huge love and appreciation for him. He is such a cool character. He's just a lovable shithead. I love how in this book we get to see a little bit more into Cole's relationship with Lucius Fox, which is super funny, just super duper funny. He's such a shithead, like employee, like bodyguard. He's such a smartass. But you also learn more about Cole's past here, which I could definitely use. Like I said, I do not know shit about Grifter. Things get so blurry with all those like publication switches. Because didn't he start on? Correct me if I'm wrong. Right? He started on Image, and then didn't he move to Wildstorm, and now he's back at DC. I have no idea. I think he's a Jim Lee though, right? Like Jim Lee created him. I don't know. But the ending of this Grifters mini was great. I can't wait to see where the Nora Freeze stuff goes. I've been specifically calling out that story since it was made by the master, Tomasi, back during his Detectives run. So thank you, God, Rosenberg, for tying up that loose end for us. You're such a sweetheart for that. Moving into the last book of the DC section here. It is such an amazing 48 page whatever that I'm holding in my hands. Rorschach issue number 6, written by Tom King, drawn by Jorge Forns, and colors by Dave Stewart. So I was so in love with this issue, guys. Like this issue is so sweet. It's a slow burner. Okay. It's such a slow burner, but I think this is honestly one of the most well-written issues amidst this whole series, which is really saying something. There have been a lot of really, really well-written issues, and I think this one takes the cake. I honestly do. Pretty much the whole issue takes place around this like sequence of Laura, the girl, or the kid, right? I think that's what she's called, the kid. Her sending letters to Will Meyerson, who is the artist who seemed to be who was the Rorschach. This plot is so convoluted and complicated. He was the Rorschach that died in the first issue. And this issue is pretty much the letter exchange conversation that they had of how they met and kind of grew a relationship. And oh my God, it is just so cool because you turn the page and it's just this letter just annotated out across all this amazing art. And then you turn the next page, it's a letter from Will, same amazing art. And it's also layered together. I just cannot get enough of Tom King's writing style. Through the letters, King is making Laura's actions super exciting, given at one point she's like killing people and fucking admitting it to Will. That was just so crazy. But then it's developing the relationship, I guess, seeming that it's definitely manipulative, I guess. That was sort of a talking point I almost wanted to pause on. Was it seems that Will, I definitely got like grooming vibes from Will in this issue. However, it didn't seem like their relationship at any point, as I'm pretty sure the cops had discussed, was ever like sexual. We could learn more about that. I have no idea. And maybe maybe it could still be grooming technically, but at the end of the issue, he's like, "Come to me, Laura, drive to me in New York. I'll take care of you. We'll complete each other." I was just like, yikes. This is this is some intense dialogue. There is some awesome layering in this issue with Mary Shelley, because she gets brought up kind of as a point of conversation between Will and Laura. And this element being introduced adds kind of like some creepiness to Will's POV here, right? Because he is talking, he realizes, I guess, because Laura says, "I'm 19, just like Mary Shelley." And Will's like okay with that, I guess. Like it was such a weird way to introduce that point so explicitly, but then that adds the creepiness factor. Like the story just unravels here in such an interesting way. And like I was saying earlier, the art here by Jorge Forns is just like drool worthy. There's so many cool spreads in this issue. Probably some of like the best spreads throughout the whole series, I would say, appear in this particular issue. It's doing the Watchmen art motifs, right? The thing we all love about any kind of Watchmen book, the thing that has to be there. And that the last thing really to mention here is that our detective man, who's sort of the main of the series, given the end of the last issue that was super duper cliffhanger, right, with him like seeing Rorschach and the kid, we really don't follow up with him much here. But I really like what King does show us, which is our detective man kind of still kind of cracking the case, but you can tell that there is now like a bit of ruggedness to him, I guess, or that he's changing. He's becoming more direct. You know what I mean? Like he's becoming more forceful in his work. You know what I mean? And I think this is all leading up to a mental snap that King is going to put this guy through. So that will be very interesting to watch unfold. And then meanwhile, man, there's like, it doesn't even end. There's a presidential debate between Turley and Redford literally throughout this issue. So that was super duper interesting. Oh my God. I'm just loving this Rorschach series from head to toe. I hope you guys are reading it. All right, now fuck them DC books. Let's talk a few indie books. I have 3 here. I got a Bloodshot book from Valiant Comics, and then I got a very generous amount of Blade Runner comics here from Titan Comics. I got 2 actually. Very excited to talk about those 2. Let's get Bloodshot out of the way first, because I gotta say, guys, I got some not so positive things to say about this issue. But this is Bloodshot issue number 12, written by Tim Seeley, drawn by Pedro Andreo, and colors here by Andrew Dahlhaus, I believe. So this is the last issue of Tim Seeley's like year-long Bloodshot run. He started this, I guess it's sort of a year plus long, because this got heavily delayed by COVID. So we got a pretty decent break from Bloodshot from Tim Seeley here. I'm not sure if that affected much of his like creative output or not. But ultimately, man, I'm feeling pretty underwhelmed by this issue, just in and of itself and kind of as an ending to Tim Seeley's run. I thought it started out really strong, as I've been saying, but it sort of just went downhill. It felt like they kind of rushed this harmony thing at the end here with Rampage. I thought that was really cool. I liked the political angle of this part, but it felt like they were just kind of finishing it up really quickly. If maybe he would have dedicated the harmony stuff to the last half of his run, I think that could have been really good. But ultimately, with little time to kind of establish any new story, this one sort of just seems like it's referencing Rampage's origin story, which I myself have not read. Maybe is sort of a missed opportunity if you're trying to make this Bloodshot run new reader friendly. But you know, moving on, Exo Manowar getting cameoed in this issue was cool. But overall, I think it was kind of just like a half-assed inclusion of the whole like connected universe concept here. And unfortunately, there was a pretty status quo ending. Just kind of pet peeves, you know, weak cameos, status quo endings, just stuff you don't like to see in comics. It seems like Bloodshot could have gotten new powers or something here at the end. I'm not exactly sure. But, you know, I'm going to keep reading this series. We'll see where it's going. The next arc is going to be written by the comic historian, fellow YouTube comic commentator, if you will. And there was actually a mini in the back of this book featured from him, but unfortunately, sorry, comic historian, you know, I know it's kind of a conflict of interest, but I'm going to be brutally honest, brethren. It was kind of underwhelming. I was pretty underwhelmed by this comic historian mini. It was just basically like a recap, it felt like, of Bloodshot's story, which was, I guess, kind of helpful to me. Like I said, I'm not really a Bloodshot reader. Like that, I haven't read all of his new stuff. And so that was sort of useful. But ultimately, I was like, okay, this doesn't exactly incentivize me to look forward to your Bloodshot arc. And then there was an ominous death returns at the end of this book. I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know what's going on there. But sure, death's returning. I don't know. It just seems like Valiant Comics is in a weird place right now where they were really connected and running a lot of books at the same time. And then things kind of halted and they're sort of just, I don't know. It feels like they need to kind of get back into momentum, as it were. So hopefully we'll see that, hopefully they got something cooking up. But moving into the next few books here, I am very excited to talk about these. We got 2 Titan books here from Blade Runner in their Blade Runner verse. I'm going to start with the main series, Blade Runner 2029, issue number 3. This one's written by Mike Johnson, of course, the man, and drawn by Andres Guinaldo and colors by Marco Lesko. This issue here is diving way deeper into all of this Jotun cult business stuff that's going on. Definitely a strange religious cult sort of aspect added to it as of this issue. It seems like it's going to be some sort of replicant religion. You know what I mean? Like, because the whole idea is Jotun redeems and he's freeing these replicants. So there's that going on in this issue, which is really dope. And then Ashina, on the other hand, our main character, our most badassest main character, she is back in full Blade Runner mode. However, her relationship with the LAPD is kind of wavering a little bit. She's continuing this investigation into these string of murders. It's leading her down this path of the Jotun shit. And one of the Jotunites, I don't know what you're going to call these people, the Jotun followers, they apprehend Ashina at the end. It had me doing the, the Pog face, whatever. It wasn't Pog, not Poggers at all that she got captured, but I was like, oh, holy shit, what the fuck? So we'll see where that goes. Very, very, very interested in that. This series is just fucking great, guys. I mean, I've burnt out on how much I can sell Blade Runner. Like, I really should try and run a bag from Titan Comics because I have been so going hard for this series. But anyway, the Jotun gang is pretty cool. They are fucking some shit up, about to take some shit over. I'm very interested to see what they're doing. I think they're going to the governor's house. Insanity, total insanity. I think the next issue is going to be like bombastic as hell. A lot of cliffhangers in this issue. So great issue. Things are going really nuts in the 2029 verse. But now let's talk about a different Blade Runner book. I was super duper pumped for this. When I heard that it was announced, I was doing the Pog face. This is a very Poggers book, and that is Blade Runner Origins issue number 1. I was spoiled this week. My friends, 2 Blade Runner books in 1 week. I was so hype. I was definitely more hype for this Origins book. It's about the first Blade Runner. Like, come on, already that is cool as shit. If you fuck with Blade Runner, if you don't fuck with Blade Runner, it is cool as hell. And I have to say, this book followed up. Honest to God, I liked this book more than the regular Blade Runner series this week. Still loved it, don't get me wrong, but this book takes the cake. So we meet our first Blade Runner here, and his name is Cal Moreau. Moreau, it's like French or something. So it ends with an X, okay? Cal Moreau. And he has taken us back to 2009. Of course, this story has the same amazing Blade Runner tone, but given that we're a few years removed, about 10 years removed from the events of the first Blade Runner movie, right, from the 80s, which took place in 2019, we're in 2009, so it's a little less dystopian, but I really love the way that this book kicks off. It shows Cal in the war. There's some crazy shit going on with these like alien women. That was super ominous. There's one alien woman, but she like is fucking up Cal. And then I have to say this, guys, there was a page in this book that I literally like exclaimed at. Like I turned the page and said, oh my God, there's this beautiful spread. It will be on the YouTube of this like sky city line of the cars and the industrialism. I just love it. I was head over heels for this story. I think the way that they introduced the plot was so cool, where Cal, getting into how he even gets entwined into all this blade running business. There's a murder at the Tyrell Corporation, which obviously creates all the replicants. And the interesting detail that they give us here is that apparently no one's allowed into the Tyrell Corporation. So the fact that Cal is going in there, I think he starts referring to it as like a career ender. That was kind of confusing to me. I didn't know what, is that true? Like, is your career just actually over? Are they going to fire you after this? We will see. We will see where this goes and what the career ending aspect is. But then they even throw you a bunch of emotional peel in the beginning for Cal with his wife, who seems to be in some like vegetative coma state or something like that. But as you can guess, turns out the murder in the Tyrell Corporation is committed by not a Nexus 6, my Blade Runner friends, but a Nexus 5. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Unless I'm incorrect, I'm pretty sure all the Blade Runners we see, like in our 2029 book and in the movies, I'm pretty sure those are Nexus 6. Could be wrong, could be right. It's whatever. But please, my friends, if you think robots are cool, if you think sentience is an interesting idea and robot hunting and shooting and all of that, you think it's badass, please read Blade Runner, watch the movie, read the comics. You will not be disappointed at all. Alrighty then, for my last section, I got the Marvel books this week. We got 6 books that I'm talking, and I can tell that I'm going a little long on the on the time side. Not too bad, but I think we can wrap this up here hopefully in the next 10 minutes. So I might rattle through these books rather swiftly. So let's begin. First book I'm talking is the Wolverine Black, White, and Blood issue number 4. Another big team book, so I'll read them as I go. But this is the end of the Wolverine Black, White, and Blood color mini anthology type series. Overall, this issue may be the weakest issue, but I have to say it was still a very fun one. There were a lot of interesting stories in this installment because two of the 3 chose to take place within continuity. Isn't that interesting? It specifically noted that these stories were occurring after specific Uncanny X-Men issues. And so just to kind of talk about each story, the first story here, this one takes place after Uncanny X-Men 173. I believe this one is written by Kelly Thompson. I was pretty excited to see that. And drawn by Carrie Randolph. But I thought this was a really cool story. The story itself, the lore, totally escaped me, but it was pretty much a badass fight between Logan and Mystique. I thought that was great. I loved the art. It was just such an awesome fight. And man, the X-Men were on some shit back in the 80s, because this took place in like 82 or something like that with Uncanny 173. And they had some dope ass outfits. I have to say, I loved Storms. I loved her look. So might have to do a deep dive into the 80s side. But for the second story here, the next one, it was written by Ed Bryson with pencils by Leonard Kirk. These are some big names in the comic industry. And this one takes place after Uncanny X-Men 229. But that being said, pretty random. This one was a pretty random story. Logan, he's just pretty much slaughtering a whole boat of Reavers. You know, I don't even really know what a Reaver is. It seems like it's just some kind of goon, some kind of pirates or something like that, which, hey, they're slaughterable. Don't get me wrong. But the highlight of this book was definitely when Logan shot a guy with a harpoon gun. That was pretty cool. I liked that. Moving into the third story, the last story. So I figured that this one would also take place, in continuity. And it does not. It does not take place within any specific X-Men time era. However, it does occur around a classic X-Men villain, Sauron, and it also features the whole Savage Lands type shit. And yeah, I expected this one probably the least out of them all because I was unfamiliar with the team. But that being said, I was quite pleased. This was actually probably my favorite one of the whole book. It was super duper gory. I mean, the elevator pitch for you is Wolverine fights a fucking T-Rex. It's so sweet. He also fights the Petrified Man. Like I said, he's fighting Sauron a little bit. It's just so fun, and it's super duper gory, bloody. I loved it. I loved it. So overall, I really liked this Wolverine Black, White, and Blood series. It was pretty neat, and I can't wait for Carnage's coming up. I think this coming week that I'm recording this. So we shall see how that goes. Next book that I'm talking is Eternals, issue number 3, written by Kieran Gillen, drawn by Asad Rebic, and colors by Matthew Wilson. I don't know why, I just feel compelled to give their full names when I'm talking about this book. I think it's because their full names actually appear on the cover here. An interesting little note. But this is the return of the epic Eternals story. I've been loving this story so far. It is so fucking spacey and very Kieran Gillen, and this issue focuses really specifically on one Eternals character named Thena and how she's kind of intertwined herself throughout this story. And it begs the question with the Eternals movie coming out here. And I think I heard that it was supposed to come out this year. It begs the question, like, when they focus on a character in this book, does that mean they're sort of like, I don't know, they're sort of like referencing that they're gonna be focusing on that character a little bit more in the movie, or like that character is gonna be more prevalent in the movie? Just kind of my speculation here. But I love how Kieran Gillen here is using these humongous, like godly figures, right? The Eternals. These crazy celestial powerful beings, but he's using them to tell a very localized murder mystery story of the gods. Like, that's just so badass, you know what I mean? So it's such a cool angle. You would expect it to be something like insane where they're fighting celestials and for the fate of the universe or some crazy shit. But no, like, there's been a murder. And then, as we see at the end of this book, there is actually a second murder, which I will talk about that in a second. But I particularly really liked one aspect in this book. There was a flashback. They seem to hearken their characters' costume designs back to the classic Jack Kirby costume designs, given that these are a Jack Kirby creation. So I thought that was a cool note. Like, I liked the little historical hat nod from the artist and writer in this case. But I really did like the druid cliffhanger here at the end. That was so fucking cool. He shows up to go talk to his dad. His dad is dead. And so Cersei's like, okay, so you're king now then, right? And he's like, yep. And he goes, I assume I'm a suspect now. And that was a really sweet ending. I just love the mystery Game of Thrones vibe. That's what I wrote down here in my notes. Like, there's kingdoms and murder and battles. I don't know. I'm rambling and I probably sound like I just don't know what I'm talking about. But this book has just been so fun. It's playing in such an ominous way that you just feel like overwhelmed. You're like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, but I'm loving it. Would absolutely recommend that book. Talking about the next book here, Immortal Hulk, issue number 44, written by, of course, Al Ewing, drawn by, of course, Joe Bennett, and colors by, of course, Paul Mounts. So this issue is Hulk versus the UFOs, or the UFOs. I don't know. I don't know why I feel compelled to say that, but no, it's the UFOs because there is a hyphen. And shit is getting morbid. Just throwing that out there, a morbid warning. Like, man, this comic was fucking brutal. The UFOs, here's what happens, okay? Here's what happens in this book. The UFOs pretty much take turns whooping the shit out of Hulk. I mean, they pretty much all take turns killing him. It's it's insane. And this is child Hulk, mind you, right? Hulk is going through a lot of changes throughout this Immortal Hulk series, and this is currently the very sweet, naive, would not hurt a fly child Hulk. I'm kidding. He would probably hurt a fly. But they eventually kill him in the most fucked up, crazy way. I don't even know all these characters and the UFOs names, but there's this one that's he's light or something. I don't even know what he is. And he burns him to a skeleton covered in skin. It's insanity. It's so insane. And especially with Joe Bennett's horrific art, it's perfect. This was a really, really good issue. And meanwhile, Alpha Flight, they're doing their thing, of course. They're fighting this like Rick Jones leader hybrid morphing thing. And our friend Jackie, you guys know Jackie, she apparently is seeing gamma shit. So that's going to be interesting. She seems to be getting some powers. We'll have to look out for that. And there was an interesting theme I noticed between these two stories kind of going on at the same time, that there was this like running notion of like defenselessness, you know, because Child Hulk is like crying, yelling no as he's being like literally killed. And then so is this Rick Jones figure. There's a scene where Sasquatch, Doc Samson, confusing, right? He's like kicking the shit out of this Rick Jones thing, and it's screaming no and stop or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, there's definitely that going on at the same time here. There could be some, who knows, connection going on there with like this leader, Rick Jones figure. There does seem to be something going on with the leader. Given that fucking ending, what the fuck was that? This is like a classic Immortal Hulk issue where you're like, okay, this was cool. Holy shit, wait, what's going on? Oh yeah, that's what's happening. Wait, okay, I don't know what's happening. That's pretty much how I feel after every issue. This one is no exception. All right, for the next book, I'm talking Taskmaster issue number 4. This is written by Jed McKay, the Amazing, and then, of course, drawn by Alessandro Vitti and colors by Guru FX. The penultimate issue of this amazing, amazing series that I have been so drooling over all over the podcast. I have always talked about this series in high regards. I have also always said that I always say things of high regards for it. So I'm a big stan for this comic right now. Rubicon Trigger Part 4. Taskmaster is going to Wakanda, and this issue is pretty much, as always, the highlight of the week. One of the many highlights of the week. Every week this series drops. It has tons of action, tons of humor, an espionage twist that makes it all super fun and interesting. It does everything right for Taskmaster. He is like Grifter, calling back to what I was saying about Urban Legends, where he is such a lovable asshole. I just am so... I love Taskmaster. He's the shit. His whole goal in this book, of course, is he has to get the like physical kinetic signature of Okoye, which was cool. He ends up having a big fight with her. Task was definitely holding his own against Okoye, and sometimes you actually forget how strong of like a fighter he is, especially in this series, because each issue is sort of about him getting his ass kicked left and right. So it was fun to see him actually kind of like hold his own in a fight. And as always, Taskmaster takes the like joke of the week, pretty much one of the only comics that can ever make me laugh. And there is a line here that I shall read out. It was so hilarious. Okoye has captured Taskmaster, of course, and he's cuffed up, and she says, "I've decided what I want to do with you, mercenary. While there are any number of punishments I might like to visit upon you, I truly cannot think of anything worse than the United States criminal justice system." And Taskmaster's like, what the fuck? Hilarious. Fucking Jed McKay, you are hilarious. You are the only writer in the game right now who seems to actually be able to make me laugh out loud at a comic. It is so rare. I would probably appear to hate every comic that I read if you were to watch me read it, because I never exclaim anything other when I'm, laughing at Taskmaster or soy facing at whatever comic I was soy facing at earlier, Blade Runner. But yeah, I mean, let's see how Taskmaster ends. I've been loving the series so far, so high hopes for the ending here. He did get the kinetic signature of Okoye, so we'll see how this last confrontation with Black Widow goes. Such a great book. Another great book, Daredevil issue number 28, written by Chip Zdarsky, drawn by Marco Cicchetto, and colors by Marcos Meniz. This is a big matte issue, actually. We just got out of the King in Black stuff. I think it was Black Kitchen, or lights out in the kitchen. The kitchen light is broken, something like that. This is a big Matt issue. It's focusing on how Matt and his life is... How his life as Matt Murdock, and thus Daredevil, has been dedicated to justice both in and outside of the court, and how that fact is kind of fully realizing itself to him now, or like the ramifications of his life as Daredevil are realizing or becoming realized to him, because he's now confronting the people that he has actually placed into the criminal justice system. It's really interesting. Since now Matt's in jail, he is now actually sitting down next to and getting to know the people that he's thrown in jail and understanding, I guess, what he did to them. And obviously, since Matt is a lawyer, it's not only people that he's, turned in as Daredevil, but it's people that he's prosecuted as Matt Murdock, attorney at law. So it's super interesting. I love the way that Zdarsky is telling this story with Matt. He is just like breaking him down all over the place. Something, of course, that Matt pretty much has done in every single comic that he gets. But, Zdarsky's doing a good job at it. There's a little bit of fallout from King in Black here with Matt kind of just being further isolated from all of his prison mates. And then now he's seeing a psychiatrist, is pretty cool. But they acknowledge like, oh, you got taken over by an alien space god and electrocuted yourself on the electric chair and you're fine. So that was all pretty funny. The main climax of the issue seems to be all this stuff going on with Neil in this book, which is this double homicide murderer in the prison that Matt prosecuted and put into jail. And given that Matt is like, no one wants to talk to Matt, because he's like a narc, right? He's Daredevil. He puts people into prison. Why would the people in prison fuck with him at all? Of course they don't. But this Neil guy is like trying to get to know him and stuff like that. And Matt cannot handle it. I just love how Zdarsky plays all of this out, especially with the psychiatrist. It's super sad and kind of like a trigger warning here, but what ends up happening with Neil is he commits suicide in prison. And this like is emotionally devastating for Matt. And I loved that like raw kind of like, I don't know, just experience that Matt's going through. It is so cool. I just love the way that Zdarsky is approaching this story. In the background, there's some fun stuff going on with Fisk and Mary and Elektra here. It's all very cool, very whatever. Fisk is looking very adorable. But then that ending, though, Matt is fucking poisoned. What the motherfuck hell? That was the most cold cliffhanger I have ever seen. It's just Matt sitting there and he goes, oh, hey, dude, I'm poisoned. And it's just like, okay, next issue. Like, what? Such a cold cliffhanger. I guess that's kind of cool in its own respect. Now, for the last book of the week, going a little long here on the episode, hopefully not too long. Let's get this one out of the way and over with. I'm talking Nonstop Spider-Man issue number 1, written by Joe Kelly, drawn by Chris Bachalo, inked. This is the one time I'm going to name an inker because they exclusively ink, not exclusively, but they notoriously ink with Chris Bachalo, and that is Tim Townsend, and then colors by Marcos Menes. So, oh my God, I was anticipating this book very, very much, literally based off the creative team alone. And the thing is, I'm an interesting case when it comes to any Spidey book because I am not a Spidey guy. Like, as y'all know, I never really talk Spider-Man on the podcast. But as some of y'all probably know, I am a Chris Bachalo stan. I am so in love with Chris Bachalo. I think the first thing I ever read from him was his Aaron Doctor Strange run. And I was head over fucking heels ever since then. I was picking up his Daredevil arc. Not his Daredevil arc. His Deadpool. The arc he did on Deadpool with Kelly Thompson. I was picking that up when it was dropping. Man, I am a stan. Okay, but now that that's out of the way, this book was seriously like my wet dream for that exact reason. This was seriously pitched as an adrenaline joyride of a comic. That's literally what you get. It's so fun. Spidey, he's fighting like a ninja gang here, and it's just wild. Like with Chris Bachalo's art accompanying it, like everything is sideways and left to right and exploding like crazy, and half the panels aren't even like really squares. It's nuts. Okay, like I knew the art and paneling was just going to be insane here. And Joe Kelly absolutely brings the story. He is, as described in the back matter here, this like crazy visceral artist or whatever, some descriptive words. All I know about him is that I think he used to write Deadpool back in the day. And you know how I feel about the yucky comics. I was like, of course, I don't know how much I'm into it. That's why I really don't pick up Spider-Man like that. But no, this book was a blast, and it actually was pretty funny when it was trying to be. Now, it's called Nonstop Spider-Man. There is a little bit of stopping going on here. There is a funeral for one of Pete's friends. or colleagues, I should say, who went into this class. It's some pretty sad stuff. It's a good emotional component. I guess he overdosed on this new drug. So sort of relating to the urban legends, like another little new drug in town type story. I definitely want to shout out the fact that the intro of the book, like the first 2 pages, were particularly fucking great. With Peter literally jumping out of a building and putting on his Spidey outfit and counting down the stories as he's falling, with smash landing on this van. It's great. With the title, it's just great. And last little bit about it, there is some back matter here with Zemo. It really felt like an 80s ripoff, right? Like it felt like an 80s comic straight from the 80s. It was pretty random. I guess he's going to be the villain of this story. Okay, Joe Kelly, we'll see where that goes. I'm down to follow you there. But Zemo said troglodytes, I have to mind you. Okay, so warning, troglodyte warning when you're reading this book. No, I literally say that troglodyte like every day. I don't know why I don't say it on the podcast. I really should. I'm a self-proclaimed trog. That's how I refer to myself. So trogs for life. And this book was great. So please, my trogs, pick this book up.
Well, this was fun.
Until next time.
And that is all I have for book reviews, book talk this week. Man, another episode in the bag. Thank you guys so much for listening through all of that rubbish talk that I was just going through. But as always, let's get to my top 5 ranking of the week. I gave you the reviews. Now, how would I sort them in a 1 to 5 order? Well, luckily for you, I'm going to do that right now. So let's get into it. Starting off number 5, I felt it was very fair to give it to this book, Immortal Hulk, issue number 44. I just loved how this book was basically like watch Hulk die 4 times. That was pretty sweet. More of that. For number 4, this is pretty fitting. I'm giving it to Taskmaster, issue number 4. I mean, it's obligatory. Taskmaster has to make it into the top 5. But then number 4 gets the number 4. Plus, it's just a great book. For the number 3 spot, I'm giving this one to, you know what? I think this series has been showing up more and more in my top 5. I'm giving it to Rorschach, issue number 6. Like I said, I think this is one of the most well-written issues of the series, definitely of this week. So please be reading Rorschach if you're a Watchmen fan, which I know most of y'all are. And for that number 2 spot, now, okay, everybody, Blade Runner fans, calm down. I'm sure you were like, where the hell is it at? Okay, here it is. I'm giving my number 2 spot to Blade Runner Origins, issue number 1. I loved it. Like I said, I liked it more than the regular Blade Runner this week. It was great. I loved Origins. I think it was a perfect setup. Even if you honestly haven't read Blade Runner, like, guys, it's great. It's just great shit. Okay. Enough. I'm not going to talk about Blade Runner anymore. I have nothing else to say. But okay, for my number 1 of the week, what could I possibly have given it to, given that I already gave a ranking to Blade Runner? Here's what I gave it to. Non-stop Spider-Man, issue number 1. Of course, Joe Kelly, Chris Bachalo. I'm a Chris Bachalo stan. It is what it is. I had to give it to it. I just literally had to. I couldn't stop myself. It was physically incapable of me to not locate that one as number 1. It seriously gave me the feeling that you seldom get when you're reading a comic, at least now at my point where I've read a bunch of comics, where you're like, oh my God, this is some shit. Like, it's the feeling that you get when you read like some of those first Donny Cates comics. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, oh my God, I am here for a fucking, like, a ride, an era of Spider-Man. I really hope that that this book goes somewhere. And, you know, getting me to read Spidey is no small task. So absolutely, Nonstop Spider-Man is the shit. Please read it. Boom. And that about does it, except for the fact that I'm going to tell you all the books that I'm talking next week, which is cool because guess what? Let's say I were to read all of these books today and then get another episode out today, I would be fully caught up. So my point is, I'm only 1 more week behind. I'm slowly but surely catching up, my friends. But here's the books that I'm going to be talking about next week, okay? Just in random order. I'm going to talk X-Force 18. We got Iron Fist Heart of the Dragon, issue number 3. Very pumped for that. We got the Black Knight mini, Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade. Very excited for that. I really liked his King in Black tie-in. The follow-up to Iron Man, the beginning of the second arc with issue number 7. Can't wait to check that out. Prey Part 5 with Thor issue number 13. That's going to be probably really good. The beginning of the Trials of Ultraman with issue number 1. I'm pretty psyched for that book. Then for DC books, we're talking Nightwing issue number 78. That's going to be such a blast. That book has been super duper hyped up as well. I'm really hyped for this one. Maybe just me and me alone, but I will stand on this island. Justice League issue number 59. Bendis has taken over. It's going to be good. I'm telling y'all it's going to be good. But lastly, we do have an indie book, a new indie book in issue number 1, Ultra Mega issue number 1. This is a thick bitch book. Ow, damn. That just like fucked my laptop up. Okay, that is all I have for y'all this week. Thank you so much for listening. This was, again, a bit of a longer recording. Sorry about that. Hopefully it's not too long in the end. I'm working on it. I love you guys. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you in the next episode. Subscribe, like, all that dumb shit, and I will see you then. Later.